So I grew up in Los Angeles. That was like the sea that I was surrounded by.
Good morning. Do you feel like standing? You feel like standing? We can stand. We're going to start with Morning Has Broken, number 38 in the Gray Hymnal. Beth, my friend, will start us off. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Thank you.
Good morning. Hello. I'm Richard Steele, today's lay leader. I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, with special greetings to our online viewers from around the United States, Canada, and elsewhere in the world. Today we have a guest speaker, fellow UUCS congregant Paul Lindholt, PhD. Paul was professor of English and philosophy at Eastern Washington University, where he teaches literature, creative writing, and environmental studies. He grew up on the Salish Sea in western Washington, but now divides his time between Spokane and Sandpoint, Idaho. He's a prolific writer on American studies and American literature with over 300 book chapters, journal articles, essays, columns, reviews, and poems in print. His work has been recognized by the Academy of American Poets, the Society of Professional Journalists, and the Washington Center for the Book. His ecological memoir, In Earshot of Water, won a Washington State Book Award, and his sermon today is entitled Taken by the Sea. Please join me in welcoming Paul Lindholt to the pulpit today. Whether you were in the sanctuary or watching us from afar today, it is here that we join to create a nourishing religious home with a mission to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world. Or, as we say more concisely, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Now, please take a few minutes to greet one another.
Chance to visit with you. I'm amazed all these years we see each other at the health club and church, and right. we never exchanged words. Yeah, really. Never really.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I was unaware of your interest in linguistics, because that's really what like the through line in everything that I do. Just always been fascinated by the way language works and how the effects that it has in society.
I am precisely
It will be heavy hitting. Yeah.
Might relate to your work. It's on expletive constructions.
Really?
And most people, and of course the lay audiences, think of expletives as swear words, but you know what an expletive is, and so I looked at the ways that functions and published a little squib on it.
Interesting. One of the interesting things about the expletives, that particular type of speech, is that in aphasia they tend to be retained better than other things.
Because you work with people that are damaged.
And so the interesting thing is that in aphasia rehabilitation, one of the things speech pathologists often find is that, like, this, F you know, that's what's it tends to be preserved and so on. It's sort of like expository speech, like propositional, where you have like subject, the verb, and you're expressing the entire thought. So that's where you get the difficult. Like retrieving the words from your lexicon and putting them together according to.
It's a perfect choir director.
I've never understood how these two meanings of expletive can come together. Is there an overlap that debates me?
No, I'd have to give that to you. Some thought, but it tends to be automatic speech, and so it's like stored in the brain. There are a couple of things about aphasia. Singing also tends to be relatively well preserved. People will often be able to sing along to songs that they learned when they were children early on, where they can't say the very
This one. I was a relative child when the Cat Stevens song came on the airwaves, and so it's really hardwired for me.
Yeah.
Morning is broken.
I know. I love that song.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so. We turn now from our informal greetings to formally begin our service by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, our unity and solidarity, our openness and inclusion, of our community and individuality. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been found, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where a spark of truth where truth has been lost, and a healthy shadow of doubt where it has been found. For our opening reflection, I draw on a book that I first read 40 years ago, The Sea Around Us by Rachel Carson. Its 6th chapter, The Long Snowfall, vividly impressed me with its perspective. Alien, profound, compelling. Her words. When I think of the floor of the deep sea, the single overwhelming fact that possesses my imagination is the accumulation of sediments. I see always the steady, unremitting, downward drift of materials from above, flake upon flake, layer upon layer, a drift that is continued for hundreds of millions of years, that will go on as long as there are seas and continents. For the sediments are the material of the most stupendous snowfall the earth has ever seen. It began when the first rains fell on the barren rocks and set in motion the forces of erosion. It was accelerated when living creatures developed in the surface waters, and the discarded little shells of lime or silica that had encased them in life began to drift downward to the bottom. Silently, endlessly, with the deliberation of earth processes that can afford to be slow because they have so much time for completion, the accumulation of sediments has proceeded. So little in a year or in a human lifetime, but so enormous an amount in the life of earth and sea.
Please stand and join me for Chant for the Seasons. We're doing the changing songs for autumn. Don't worry about that. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of blue mist rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our hearts and minds, and whom we want to wrap in our love and care. We light a candle for them this morning. We mourn the people of Ukraine who are dying in the Russian war of aggression, the residents of Marrakesh and surrounding areas suffering the effects of the earthquake in Morocco, and the citizens of Derna in Libya, swept away by floodwaters when 2 dams gave way in the night above their city. Let us share a moment of silence, embracing others who are here in our hearts. You are welcome to say their names, those named aloud and those remembered in the silence we hold in our community of compassion. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
Well, the smart money's on Harlow, and the moon is in the street, and the shadow boys are breaking all the laws. And you're east of East St. Louis, and the wind is making speeches, and the rain sounds like a round of applause. And Napoleon is weeping in a carnival saloon, his invisible fiancé's in the mirror. And the band is going home, it's raining hammers, it's raining nails, and it's true there's nothing left for him down here. And it's time, time, time It's time, time, time. It's time, time, time that you love. And it's time, time, time. And they all pretend they're orphans, and their memories like a train. You can see it getting smaller as it pulls away. And the things you can't remember tell the things you can't forget. That history puts a saint in every dream. Well, she said she'd stick around until the bandages came off. But these mama's boys just don't know when to quit. And Matilda asks the sailors, are those dreams or are those prayers? So close your eyes, son, and this won't hurt a bit. And it's time, time, time. It's time, time, time. It's time, time, time that you love. And it's time, time, time. Well, things are pretty lousy for a calendar girl. The boys just dive off cars and splash into the street. And when they're on a roll, she pulls a razor from her boot, and 1,000 pigeons fall around her feet. So put a candle in the window and a kiss upon his lips, as the dish outside the window fills with rain. Just like a stranger with the weeds in your heart, and pay the fiddler off till I come back again. And it's time, time, time. It's time, time, time. It's time, time, time that you love. And it's time, time, time. Oh, it's time, time, time. It's time, time, time. It's time, time, time that you love. And it's time, time, time.
And it's time, time, time for stories for all ages. On the news in June, there was a story describing how Sandpoint authorities solved the problem of geese overpopulation. Do you remember the story? Euthanasia, horrible. That story reminded me of a fable, it's a Russian, in the Russian language I read so many years ago. I don't remember it fully, but I'd like to share with you some part of it. So that fable about a certain community in the north that wanted to cancel one season of the year. Guess what season? The winter, north, of course. But why did those people want to cancel it? You see, they hated the season for several reasons. It was freezing hard for many, many days, so the people had to burn a lot of wood to keep their houses warm. From December through February, the snow was so deep, the poor guys had to struggle getting out. It reminds me of something. They wished the bad season would never come. One day early in the fall, the elders of that north community gathered together to figure out how to prevent the winter from coming. The oldest of them, and perhaps the wisest, said, well, let's think and first describe what kind of changes happen in the nature before the winter. Sure, everybody knew the changes. Well, the leaves would start turning yellowish, then falling off the trees. Many birds would begin their migration and fly south, and the bears would go to their dens for their winter nap, well, and so on and so forth. The problem was to decide what to do to prevent the bad season from coming. Well, they were thinking and thinking and thinking and came up with a very funny idea. They decided to glue their leaves to the branches so that the leaves don't fall, then catch the birds so that they don't fly away, then destroy all the dens for the creatures, and especially the bears, so that the bears stay active instead of taking their winter nap. As you understand, the plan to cancel the worst season of the year didn't work. And really, there are no bad seasons, though we do have bad weather. It is similar to us, the humans. We may have good days and bad days. We, the people, have our own seasons of life: childhood, adulthood, years of maturing, and years of decline. Mother Nature has a reason for a change of seasons. Unfortunately, our summers are getting hotter and drier with devastating fires, a sign of global warming. And still, we can enjoy the bright fall colors, a white Christmas, and beautiful early spring flowers. And in the fall, we begin planting tulips, hoping to be around when they start growing in spring. May we enjoy all the days of our life, no matter the season.
Thank you. As we prepare for meditation, I invite you to relax, find a comfortable position, breathe deeply and mindfully, and reflect on these words of scientist, inventor, and electrical entrepreneur Nikola Tesla. The human being is a self-propelled automaton, entirely under the control of external influences. Willful and predetermined though they appear, his actions are governed not from within, but from without. He is like a float tossed about by the waves of a turbulent sea.
As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Oh, love, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, come on down. Come on, sisters, let's go down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Oh, love, show me the way. Oh, brothers, let's go down, come on down. Come on, brothers, let's go down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Oh, love, show me the way. Oh, fathers, let's go down, come on down, come on, fathers, let's go down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Oh, love, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down, come on, mothers, let's go down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Oh, love, show me the way.
Good morning. I have so many people to thank before I begin, and I'll start with Todd, who's kept the wheels of this church running smoothly over the years despite its headwinds. Thank Richard, whom I had a great conversation with today. For the first time, we've known each other for years, but never really found our common ground as we did today. I also thank Marina Ladich for organizing all of us guest speakers, sermonizers, and welcome Madeline, however, belatedly. I'm very excited about the fresh air you will bring, and how many churches have a music director that will try a cappella, not only try, but succeed so well. So thank you. My theme today is taken by the sea. The sea takes material things and grinds them to a mulch. The sea takes people too. My message, my theme, might be how to survive death. A book from Roman times by Boethius, a book I was assigned to read in school, is titled The Consolation of Philosophy. And I'm blowing my pitch pipe by that title, as Madeline did before she sang today. The contents of that book made less of an impression on me than its title did. Long ago, you see, a choppy bay swallowed my firstborn son. This is not fiction. He was 20. The news reports pronounced him disappeared, presumed drowned, missing. In a kind of barter, I swapped him for water. And so the story I have to tell today is dark, but I hope it has an eventual uplift. My story echoes St. Paul in Corinthians. O death, where is your sting? O grave, where is your victory? Long lapsed from the Lutheran church where I was confirmed, I still have lots of Bible in my DNA, and I quote it freely, though I self-excommunicated in a fiery letter to my minister. That's worth a footnote. My parents asked me to attend 2 years of confirmation service between the ages of 12 and 14. And I gained a lot of skills there, but I was affronted by the contradictions I heard. And so when I finished, I wrote this letter, sent it to my minister, and my parents were aghast. The loss of my son was no tricky riddle, no thought experiment, no drill about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. It is a kind of trial that life flings at us unawares. When I absorbed the news about my son, I absorbed it like a sponge plunged in water. The blood in my ears sounded like the waves beating on the shore, salt for salt, thud for thud. Braden was his name. He was kayaking with a friend at Larrabee Beach, a spot uncommon for its sandstone cliffs. Waves had etched the sandstone into scarps, sharp particles. They reminded me, when I visited after the loss, they reminded me of veins and ribs. It was early March, the weather unstable, an ill time for anyone to go paddling. Neither young man wore a life vest as they'd been taught. I taught them here in the Spokane River to do that. We will stay close to shore, they said. When I got the news, I lost track of time. I forgot promises I had made. I didn't show up for work. Briefly, I forgot my own name. Braden's name would be lost too if he did not show up soon. 6 feet and 4 inches tall, buzz-cut and bullet-headed, he plays basketball with skill and flair. Played, I scolded myself, played. Next day, both their boats washed up across the bay. My ordeal seemed to me to be a test like Job. Job's in the Bible, he who was smitten by sore boils. All of Job's 7 children were destroyed when a mighty wind crushed a home around them. Today, I think of my ordeal as one that has taught me to survive death. That's a contradiction in terms, of course. It's an oxymoron. No one survives death, even if religionists try to tell us that we can. One of the foremost functions of faith is to gain immortality, it seems to me, to survive death, to make ourselves worthy to outlive our biological mandates and emerge intact on the other side. Todd has spoken from this pulpit about a Roman slave whose writings we have in common. His name was Epictetus. He wrote a book of consolation titled The Enchiridion. I was reading it as the days ticked by without any good news about my son. The Stoic philosophy of Epictetus differed from Job's faith. To Epictetus, all external events are beyond our control. We should dispassionately accept whatever happens to us, quite by contrast with Christian belief that the fall of every sparrow is dictated by the hand of God. Epictetus wrote, and I quote, "On a voyage, when the ship is at anchor, you may amuse yourself by picking up a stone or a shell on the beach, but your thoughts ought to be on the ship every minute, for fear the captain should call, and you must leave all your things behind." Maybe the ship captain called my son and he heard too late. Maybe he never heard at all. Or maybe he received his calling and had to leave in such a hurry that he forgot to say goodbye. He was an artist of the pen. He taught himself to sketch. And this is a very precious memory of many memories for me. I had to bring him to a graduate seminar one time because I had no childcare. And I sat him right beside me. And while I was listening to the professor lecture, he sketched me. He looked right at me. And he depicted my wire-rimmed glasses askew, my bedhead hair, my whiskered neck unshamed by blade. He stippled or dappled the little whiskers on that. He was 3 years old. And I treasured that so much, that sketch, that I used it to post my office hours for years on my office door. Mine is no thought experiment. It is the real thing. None of us can remember our own birth, but every one of us must confront death, both our own and our loved ones. When I was a child, my father saved me from death by drowning. We were fishing on a river. I slipped and plunged into the drink. Before the water could sweep me out to sea, my daddy's strong arm unbent. He collared me and pulled me back to wholesome light and air. 2 decades later, I asked him for details about that narrow escape. I asked him for the name of the river. Surprised, he told me it never happened. I did not slip. The ordeal took place only in my head. Maybe it was a dream, a harbinger of some sudden plunge to come. After Jim and Braden disappear, 100 searchers, all of them volunteers, tramped the beaches, knocked on doors, and plied the waters of the Salish Sea. The words from the newspapers rung in my ears: disappeared, missing, presumed drowned. Lacking any certainty or evidence, his mother in Bellingham and I in Spokane could plan no funeral or memorial. We waited in mystery, in misery, in limbo, no closure available to us. Had it not been for Karen Lindholt and my sons, born at the time, very young sons, I'd have gone bonkers. Poet Walt Whitman witnessed a ship that hung up on a sandbar in the 1840s and broke apart off Long Island. Bodies washed ashore, most of them Irish immigrants being transported for a fee. Still today, we have many immigrants who overcrowd ships and drown in the process. I suppose that it's always been that way since humans learned to float boats. People take to the sea to find better environs, and the sea in turn takes people, sometimes en masse. Margaret Fuller was a writer at that same time in the 1850s. She stunned philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson when she and her family perished 50 years offshore in New York by Fire Island. He sent Henry David Thoreau, his protege, to the wreck site to find her manuscript on the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. She had completed this book and it was so precious to Emerson, he had to have it. That was a great tragedy for him. Not that she had perished, but the book had perished. Stranded 50 yards offshore, she would not leave her family, could not, and they would not leave her side. The storm was too great for the rescue boats to come out. The shipwreck shed the belongings of the drowned people, and scavengers snatched them up. History and literature give me comfort, no matter how grim they are on some occasions. They let me know that I am not alone. They offer what I like to call vicarious experiences, secondhand experiences. They help to cushion the blows of predictable adversity. Not that the loss of a child is predictable. We often say it goes against nature. Kids should outlive their parents, but nature has its own way of regulating our life paths. My reverence for water deepened by the hour. Philosophers distinguish between moral evil and natural evil, and I would like to make that distinction for you now. Moral evil is that which people bring to the planet. natural evil is hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, etc. I don't hold with those distinctions, though, myself. I think that what we call natural evil is really illness inside human beings and hatred for one another. That's moral evil. Nor do I believe that natural evil really is a thing. Natural cataclysms simply are. They gain moral dimension only when they are human-caused, like the wildfires in Spokane County and Pend Oreille County last month. If we cause climate change, and climate change causes hurricanes and wildfires, then those natural evils necessarily become consequences of our industrial processes. Was the God of the Old Testament evil when he smote pious Job with sore boils? Or were those boils a natural evil to which some human beings are prone by their nature, skin afflictions? Native American writer N. Scott Momaday urged reciprocal appropriation of the land, reciprocal appropriation. That way, beings can respectfully surrender to the landscape, can assimilate it into their experience. Maybe that's what my son did, surrendered too enthusiastically to that reciprocal appropriation. He knows the landscape of Larrabee Beach well now, knows it organically, not consciously, knows it like a fallen leaf knows rain. The Ancient Mariner is another literary text I turn to for solace. In the plot of that narrative poem, some of you have read it, I'm sure, a mariner pulls out his crossbow, shoots an albatross that settles on the ship. For no good reason, he shoots it, and all hell rains down upon the ship and the people. As a form of penance, he travels the high seas and grabs people to tell them about his ordeal, tells anyone who will listen. Like that man, I leaned on speech. I ventilated my grief by grabbing people and telling them in the weeks and months following that ordeal, telling them what happened. After 2 months, sleep returns. It knits back my tattered sleeves. At a memorial service for Braden, his friends and family speak. I stand and speak, unsure if I can pull it off. That's kind of like today, talking to a group of people about a great loss and unsure if I could pull it off. But I have. And I have a book in the back of the room that I've been permitted to sell, the first chapter of which goes into great detail about this same story. I would like to close with a memorized passage from a play by Shakespeare. The play is Measure for Measure. It's little known, but I love it. And the final image in this passage I'm going to recite for you is wonderful. It describes the ways that we gather stuff and carry it through life like an ass whose back with ingots bows, like a donkey whose back carries our treasures. It is an animal that must tote those goods until we die. Here's the speech. Be absolute for death. Either death or life shall thereby be the sweeter. Reason thus with life. If I do lose thee, I do lose a thing that none but fools would keep. A breath thou art, servile to all the skyey influences that dust is habitation where thou keepest, hourly afflict. Merely thou art death's fool. For him thou laborest by thy flight to shun, and yet runst toward him still. If thou art rich, thou art poor, for like an ass whose back with ingots bows, thou bearest thy heavy riches but a journey, and death unloads thee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. We're going to close with our last song. You can stand if you'd like. Blue Boat Home, 1064. Low below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in the beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea below me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
For our benediction, I offer the words of the Dutch artist Vincent van Gogh. The heart of man is very much like the sea. It has its storms, it has its tides, and in its depths, it has its pearls too. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom Havarim, Shalom Havarim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Havarim, Shalom Havarim, Shalom, Shalom.
The sad thing, he went kayaking and he didn't put on the life vest.
When he went with the